Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
Now, here is a motion picture film.
And now, ladies and gents, it's showtime!
To do the bimes.
Say hello to my little friend!
Go ahead. Make my day.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle.
Inconceivable!
Welcome to the All-American Spook Show podcast.
I'm sorry, boys. I'm afraid I can't do that. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Hello and welcome back to the All-American Spook Show podcast. I'm Josh and I'm joined here with Tiana.
Hey.
And the Professor Smoke.
What's up?
And this week we have our first and maybe our only Cult Corner selection here during the Sasquatch Summer event. I think we might have another one slated, but that one's kind of flexible. We might change that one out to another title because, you know, I'm sure there's some other stuff that we could pull for the Cult Corner for this, but we might want to save that spot for something else. We'll see. That's coming up in the month of August, so we'll figure that out. But for now, we definitely at least got this one Cult Corner, and I believe that this one's almost automatic, right? Like when we were setting all this up, we were like, well, we got at least one Cult Corner. We've got to get in Harry and the Hendersons because this has got to be, you know, because it's not a horror movie, obviously, and this has got to be one of, if not arguably one of the biggest Bigfoot Sasquatch movies there is, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Especially if you limit it to non-horror Sasquatch Bigfoot movies, it definitely is. Because then what else you got? You got Smallfoot, and you got.
I was about to say you'd be surprised. There's a lot of these movies that were made, like say in the late '90s, early 2000s, that actually are like family movies or animated films and stuff like that. So, you know, you could go down that hole a little bit deeper than you think. You know, as far as non-horror related ones. It's just that the ones that we care about or would be really interested in are horror related.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of these that aren't. You know, they're just family movies. And I think we'll have another one, this month on the Video Vortex, right? That Unforgettable Encounter or whatever. Bigfoot Unforgettable, whatever the hell it's called. We'll have another one of those over there. So, yeah, you want to check out our YouTube page for that. But, yeah, like this one, I think it had to be in here somewhere this summer. We had to find a way, and Cult Corner is probably the best place for it. Before we dive into it, though, I want to remind you to go to aaspookshow.com. From there, you can go find our YouTube page where you can go to what we were just talking about. Every month, we have series such as Video Vortex, Grindhouse Gutter, and Hammer Horror in Order. So lots of that stuff piled up and ready for you to watch over there. And we also encourage you to become a patron of the Spook Show by going to patreon.com/aaspookshow, where you get early access to the episodes. If you were a patron, you've already listened to this a day or two ago. Like, you get this sooner than anyone else. And, of course, tons of other bonus stuff is archived over there. So lots going on our Patreon. So we encourage you to become a patron of the show by going over there. So without any further build, we'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Harry and the Hendersons.
For ages, he has hidden in the forest, eluded hunters, baffled scientists, and remained a mystery until the Hendersons bumped into him.
What is it?
It's a major discovery. We have to take it home.
George. It's alive!
It's eating my 15th birthday corsage!
Uh-oh.
George, he's coming back!
Stall him!
I can't! How?
Show him the pasta maker!
This is our home! Our stuff!
Oh, sit. Exercise, Irene.
This is it.
The whole world's gonna know.
Ran away.
I gotta find him.
I'm going to kill him.
It means something to me. Can't you see see that he means something to me.
We'll never see him again, will we?
What I'm going to say now might save his life. There has been yet another sighting of the creature that some people are now calling
Harry!
Harry? Since when does he have a name?
Since right now.
The average American family just got bigger. Harry and the Hendersons.
Isn't he something?
All right, there you go. That's the trailer for that. So usually this is the part where we go around the table and talk about how many times we've seen it. Because I think we've all seen this, right?
Oh yeah.
This one,
I don't know.
I don't know how many times. I know I've seen it a number of times because look, full disclosure, I was 7 years old exactly when this thing came out, because this thing released on June 5th of 1987, and that is my 7th birthday. My birthday is June 5th.
Oh, okay.
So happy birthday to me when I turn 7 for Harry and the Hendersons. So my point is that like, yeah, I didn't go see this in the theater, but whenever this hit HBO or, whatever I watched it on, I watched it a number of times, and it seems like it was one of those ones where like, if it was on, even if it was halfway through, I would stop and watch it kind of movie. So there's no telling how many times I've seen this. At least 6 times, at least, probably more, at least partially. Although it's been a long time since, because I watched it so much back in the late 80s, early 90s, I haven't seen this thing in, 30 years, 25, 30 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's probably about that for me too. Yeah, for all of us, I guess. As far as how many times I've seen it, I don't know, but maybe 3. At least 3 for me, maybe. This being maybe the 3rd, maybe the 4th time I've seen it. But I saw it in the theater when it first came out, and I would have been 13, going on 14 in that November. So
I was gonna say, and you're a little older than me, so like maybe this probably doesn't hit you quite as much, as it does me age-wise, right? Like,
yeah.
You might have already kind of graduated up to some better stuff by this point, even when it first came out. Because this is, by all intents and purposes, a very family-friendly, very it's a sweet movie, right? I mean, you could probably say it's a sweet story.
And there's a little bit before we get into this is just like observations off watching it now after not having seen it for a while, but also it's also it is endearing and fun and all that stuff, and it still is. But there's this undercurrent in it that's like, was this movie produced by PETA?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, anti-hunting, vegetarianism, and like.
To me, it's not very heavy.
No, it's not. It's not heavy. It's just like subtextual. As you're going along, it's like little things of like.
It's definitely
like
there.
He's a hunter. Lithgow's a hunter, right in the beginning. In fact, that's kind of like. And then you get the thing of like he brings all these rifles. And he's pulling the rifle out after he hits Bigfoot. Harry. Well, later he gets named Harry, but he's got like 2 or 3 rifles back there that his wife doesn't want him to hunt, right? Because he's like, I brought him just for this, for protection. And she's like, yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's another one where he's he starts to turn once Harry realizes Harry is a vegetarian. he's an herbivore. So and he doesn't like the things hanging on the wall, like the deer heads and the things. He wants to, bury them in the yard and things like that. And then he kind of, like I said, the vegetarian angle and everything. And then more and more, he becomes like an anti-hunting. So it's this little subtext of like probably written by somebody who's a vegetarian, or something along those lines. A non-gun, non-hunting type person or whatever. But like you said, it's subtextual, kind of in there. It's just there. You don't notice it when you're younger. When I was watching it younger, you wouldn't notice those things. It's just as I'm older, I notice. Oh, okay.
I mean, it's
kind of like
you're noticing it, but it's not so much like it ruins the story. It's not like
no, it doesn't ruin the story. It's just there.
They're not beating you upside the head with it. It's just kind of like it's a slow realization throughout the movie. Like, oh yeah, this is what this is about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like pacifist, being a pacifist or whatever, I guess. Like, it doesn't just happen to him. It happens to the antagonist, the Bigfoot hunter antagonist, that guy,
Jacques Lafleur.
Yeah. So him, as well as the other guy, played by Don Amici. I can't remember his name in the movie, but
it's
him also.
Dr. Wrightwood, I think is what it. Yeah, Dr.
Yeah,
Wrightwood.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. It's just basically showing you that Harry's he's not the killer Bigfoot that he's portrayed in horror movies or in other folklore. He's a sweet creature of nature, and that he turns everybody's heart towards that. That's kind of what they're going for. It's just you notice that the little things we just get older. Especially if you're not.
That's the sweet side of it. Like that's the family friendly side of it. Is like Bigfoot, the monster, the Sasquatch is always depicted as like this drooling, big fanged monster, and then this you realize that we got it all wrong. Bigfoot's a cool dude, kind of thing.
Yeah, which they do in this movie too, portray him like his dad. Remember the hardware? Well, not hardware. What the store that they owned? His dad owned.
It's like a hunting store, like a
hunting store, right? When they realize Bigfoot's there in the neighborhood and all that stuff, and they're like, "I want you to draw," because he's an artist. I guess Lithgow. Oh, there was another thing in there about Lithgow's character being he's a hunter, right? And he likes hunting and all that stuff, but he's also an artist. But you get the feeling that his dad is like this masculine kind of figure, that he's not into like art, right? He didn't really want him to be an artist, because he even says that at one point. He's like, I wanted paint for Christmas so I could paint as an artist, and my dad got me a BB gun instead.
That whole thing kind of felt like shoehorned in. It was like all of a sudden, halfway through the movie, out of nowhere, John Lithgow always wanted to be a great artist, and now every time you see him, he's drawing and stuff, and like really cool art. It's like, where was this the first 45 minutes of the movie? Like, all of a sudden, like,
I think it's because, like I say, you get the impression that the dad didn't want him to do that, so he just kind of pushed that aside. His dad gave him the BB gun, so he became a hunter.
His dad owns a gun store, and he's one of those like, I guess he's like a macho man type of thing, like guns and be a man and all that shit. And like, I don't want to be a gun toting man. I want to draw.
I want to draw.
It's like all of a sudden at this point in his life. It's like all of a sudden at this point in his life, like Harry is teaching him to be everything he always wanted to be.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you get to the point they're trying to make there, as far as it being like the tenderhearted kind of, what they're going for. They're just going for the opposite of what you think when you think Bigfoot.
Which I think is it helps this movie though.
For
what it is. It's a nice little family friendly story. So I will say, before we get into it a little more proper and talk about our final thoughts and everything on it, I will say this, because I'm going to bring it up again. This movie was a little too long.
Yeah,
we didn't know. I didn't realize that. Well, here's the other thing. We're a little bit late to recording, maybe, because we were watching Harry and the Hendersons second after we watched the other movie we were recording for, and didn't realize. We're thinking, we didn't look at the time. We just figured it'd be an hour and a half, like any other 80s comedy movie. Right? Then as it's getting further in, like, how long is this thing anyway? And then it's almost at 2 hour point, an hour and 57 minutes. I'm like, God damn it, I guess we're going to be late for the recording of this.
I think it was an hour 50 or so.
Hour and 50 something.
Yeah, something like that. So, like, it was way longer than it needed to be. Let's be honest. Way longer than it needed to be. Hey,
also, before we get too far into it, I don't know if you looked up on William Deere, the director.
A little bit.
But he's got a little bit. He's got some cool shit in there. And one that I'm glad that I looked at his filmography, because I'd somewhat forgotten about this movie until I saw it. But 1976, he directed the Northville Cemetery Massacre.
I saw that.
That is cool. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
No,
but that is a really
but I saw that title
underrated.
and I was like, that sounds like something we should get around.
Yeah, it is. Definitely is, because it's a biker exploitation. Probably on the Grindhouse gutter. That fit perfectly.
I was about to say, what you just said. Yep, that's Grindhouse gutter.
Definitely. And it's an underrated one that I think you genuinely, some of the Grindhouse movies you enjoy for their over the top, whatever, gore, sex, violence, and whatever, right? That Northville Cemetery is actually, I think, an underrated one, at least from what I remember. I haven't seen it since, again, back in the video renting days, but it was one that struck me as better than its separate parts, if you know what I mean. It was better than it had a right to be, it seemed like, back then. So, well, we'll get around to it on the Grindhouse gutter and see if I still feel that way, but I think I'll definitely have to get it in there.
Yeah.
Then he directed something before that called Nymph, which was a sexploitation movie.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say,
totally different than Harry and Henderson.
Northville Cemetery Massacre was the only second like feature length thing he did, because he did Nymph and then that, and that was all the way back to 1975. So, he did a bunch of like music videos and stuff too. When I was looking through,
he was involved with the pre-MTV thing. I can't remember what it's called now. Something before MTV. There was some other kind of, I don't know what it aired on. It was on some cable channel or not.
Probably some satellite channel or something. Maybe
probably was.
Like that. I don't know. He did some
pop clips. That's what it's called, pop clips.
Nymph. That movie Nymph, that tracks too, because he did some stuff for Playboy back in the '80s, early '80s too. So
so it's a little bit different track when you get to Harry and the Hendersons versus Nymph and Northville Cemetery.
He's got a weird filmography when you look like, how the hell did you land on Harry and the Hendersons from Nymph and Playboy and all this other stuff? But He's all over the map.
Yeah. Another cool one though we did was also Time Rider.
Yeah.
The Adventure of Lyle Swan or whatever. And I saw that once again back in the day, but I don't remember. All I remember about that movie is the cover, which is really cool, 80s looking cover.
And then this also tracks with, at least as far as Harry and the Hendersons too. Later on, he did Angels in the Outfield in the 90s. Which,
yes,
it was very much a Harry and the Hendersons Disney type of thing. And then he also he wrote The Rocketeer, which was around that same, a little bit before that, early 90s, right, for Disney. So, yeah, he definitely did like a lot of family type stuff, but he was really all over the map. It's crazy. Yeah, with that, though, we'll go ahead and get into some of the background that I pulled up. I found at least 2 other titles for this movie. What it's known in various countries around the world is known as not Harry and the Hendersons, but Bigfoot and the Hendersons.
Yeah, I've seen that poster, right? It's the same poster, but just says Bigfoot and the Hendersons.
I think, matter of fact, if you're listening to this in the UK, I think that's just what they call it to this day. Like, they might not even know it as Harry and the Hendersons. They just, I think.
Yeah. I guess they wanted to blatantly put the title there so that you know it's a Bigfoot movie, right?
Yeah,
when you see the poster.
And then at least in the Philippines, this movie is just called Bigfoot. So
I guess it's because the masterpiece known as Bigfoot from 1970 just wasn't released over there.
Yeah. Or the 70 other movies called Bigfoot, and there's tons of them. Like I mentioned earlier, this was released June 5th, 1987. It was produced by Universal Pictures and Amblin Entertainment, and it was distributed by Universal Pictures. It was rated PG, total runtime of 1 hour and 50 minutes. On IMDb, it's listed as a comedy, family, fantasy. It was filmed in the Cascade Range, the Cascade Mountain Range, there in Washington State, and in parts of Seattle, Washington, various locations in that area, from May 28th to sometime in September of 1986, for a budget of $10 million, and then it went on to a worldwide gross of right at $50 million. So pretty successful, right? And I think it definitely probably, this is a bigger budget than you say your quote unquote cult movie, but I think it probably has a little bit of a cult following, especially for people roughly our age that grew up watching it like us, right?
Yeah.
As we normally do.
I mentioned the fact of Rick Baker doing the special effects. That definitely that bumps up the cult appeal.
Yeah. Oh, and there's one more thing to point out about that. Rick Baker did the monster, right? The makeup effects of Harry. He won an Oscar for it.
Yeah.
He actually, this movie, Harry and the Hendersons, won an Oscar. Of course, it's Rick Baker, and that dude spits out Oscars, left and right, it feels like. He was always nominated or winning them, but yeah.
True.
So, yeah, Harry and Hendersons won an Oscar. Anyways, when we have it, I always spit it out. So here we go, the top 10 in the box office. For the weekend that it came out, so this was the weekend of June 5th through the 7th, there in 1987. I'm going to start at number 12 just because this is an interesting spot. Number 12, in its 37th week. This thing had been out for knocking on a fucking year. Crocodile Dundee. It must have re-released or something. My God. I mean, because it made a lot of money, but it wasn't like a stupendous, crazy amount of money.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. But it's in its 37th week. Crocodile Dundee is still playing. And then also in at number 11, its 14th week of Lethal Weapon, the first one. All right, so now you get to the top 10. Number 10, The Chipmunk Adventure was in its 3rd week. Number 9, Certified Classic, Platoon. And that was in its 25th week.
Damn.
So it had been playing for quite some time. Pretty much most of the year at this point, right? You're into June. Pretty much all of 1987, Platoon's in the theater.
Yeah, there's only 52 weeks in a year, right?
Yeah, there you go. You're halfway there. Number 8. This is a good one. In its 6th week, Creepshow 2. And that one had old Chief Woodenhead in it. Creepshow 2.
Yeah. This hair is going to get me paid and laid.
We have not watched.
John is sighing over here because when I used to have long hair, I used to joke like that all the time. Flip my hair out. Hair is going to be paid and laid.
We have not watched Creepshow 2 here, I believe.
No,
we haven't watched it here on the Spookshow. So
I don't remember when we did the first one. We did the first one. It's been a while.
Yeah, but that's years ago. It's been a long time. Yeah. We haven't done the first one. Then there's the horrible, best forgotten Creepshow 3, right? Years later. Number 7 in its 4th week, Ishtar. Number 6.
I don't think I ever saw that. I remember that title all the time back then, but I don't think I ever saw it.
Same thing. Same here. Next up on the Cult Corner, Ishtar. Number 6, And it's fourth week. Here's another one that we have not got to, but we will. And it's fourth week, The Gate.
Oh, yeah. That's an awesome.
Number 5, in its 9th week, The Secret of My Success. Number 4,
Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. Number 4, in its 3rd week. This is one that we have done, although it was Crapsterpiece Theater. Ernest Goes to Camp. Gee, I'm glad it's raining. Yeah, if you want to hear that episode, go subscribe to our Patreon. Patreon.com/Spookshow. You can hear us talk about why that one landed on Crapsterpiece Theater. Number 3, in its opening week, Harry and the Hendersons made $4.1 million in its opening weekend. Number 2, also in its opening week, The Untouchables made just over $10 million. And then number 1 in the box office for, I believe, the 3rd straight week, Beverly Hills Cop 2 made $12.4 million to take the box office. So, Smoke, what do you think you watched that weekend, 1987? If you went to the theater, what do you think you're probably watching out of the ones we just... Did you go see The Gate?
No, I never saw The Gate in the theater. It didn't. No. I don't remember it playing in my little town.
Okay.
Maybe it did, but if it did, it was like in and out before I even noticed.
Honestly, at my age, if I went to the theater this weekend, I probably saw either Harry and the Hendersons or Ernest Goes to Camp.
Yeah, for me, it probably was Ernest. It was, either Ernest Goes to Camp, Harry and the Hendersons, or Beverly Hills Cop 2. I did see. I don't remember how, not to get off on that tangent, but there was this point in there where we could get into R-rated movies, by just going in. And I don't remember if 87 was that year or not, because I think that was also, if that was the year Child's Play came out, that was the year they cracked down on it, because they didn't let me into that. 88, or was that 87? 87 or 88, somewhere in there. So I did see Beverly Hills Cop 2 in the theater. I just don't remember who I went with, or whether it was a time when they just let us in and didn't care or whatever.
You could tell this is the beginning of the summer, maybe not blockbuster, but summer family movie type season, because you had Harry and the Hendersons came out this weekend. You still got Ernest Goes to Camp. That's out. That came out in May. You still got the Chipmunk Adventure, like I mentioned. And then all the way down here at number 14, it was also the opening weekend for Benji the Hunted. So it was definitely that early summer family-friendly, slate of movies, other than Beverly Hills Cop 2 or Platoon, I guess. I don't think those are family-friendly.
No, I know I didn't see Platoon in the theater at the time, but I definitely saw Beverly Hills Cop 2 in the theater.
I'm pretty sure I didn't see Harry and the Hendersons. So if I saw any of those, it honestly might have been Ernest Goes to Camp. Who knows? But
yeah,
I remember watching that one.
I saw 3 in the theater, but opening weekend, I don't know. It might have been Ernest Goes to Camp.
Yeah, probably.
He was.
Yeah, we just talked about William Deere. He was a director. He was also one of the writers, and he was the main producer of this movie. So this really was a William Deere thing. Yep. Although Steven Spielberg was an uncredited executive producer on this movie. So Steven Spielberg, obviously it's Amblin Entertainment, right? That's him. So he did have a big hand in this, but he's uncredited as an executive producer on it. No. And I believe he was part of the process of, getting William Deere and all that stuff. Like he did have his finger in the pie, but which I guess shouldn't be surprised if you sit there and watch it, right?
Yeah. And if people haven't seen this, you watch it, you get the Steven Spielberg feeling in this movie. It's got it's got that. Yeah. It's got that feel like a movie that he at least produced.
It's Amblin, right? So almost everything Amblin, you're in for what kind of movie generally you're in for when you see that Amblin Entertainment thing, But it was also written by Bill Martin, who by and large, he wrote and did some other stuff, but by and large, he did a lot of voice work on animation. A lot of random cartoon, series, movies, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I believe he was also one of the voices of Shredder in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. And tons of other stuff, and video games, too. Tons of video games and stuff. So if you go look up Bill Martin, that's what you'll see mostly. And then randomly, he's one of the writers on Harry and the Hendersons. Also, Ezra D. Rappaport was one of the writers, which didn't really have that many credits. Just pretty much this one and a couple others. But this would be the only one you've really heard of. It stars John Lithgow as George Henderson, one of the better actors of a generation, right? I mean, he truly is good in just about everything he's in.
Yeah, and he's got really good comic chops. Timing wise, just his delivery of comedy is good.
and I mean, everything. The
And
dude's
drama.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
drama. I mean, I think he's always kind of considered himself more of a theater guy, but the dude's run the gamut of everything from comedy to horror to drama to everything that he's done throughout his career. I mean, like he's been nominated twice for the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for The World According to Garp and Terms of Endearment. And both of those are before he's in Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah. And both of those, even though The World According to Garp is kind of, it's got Robin Williams and it's got some comedic elements, it's more drama than anything else. And then Terms of Endearment, pure drama. So.
But that should show you his range right there.
Yeah.
Going from those to this. Also, he was in, remember Twilight Zone, the movie? You know how it had the short stories, kind of like Creepshow, right? He's in that. Yeah. The movie Raising Cain.
Yeah, that's an underrated movie, I think. I hadn't seen that in forever either.
He was in an episode of Tales from the Crypt. I'm just pointing out like the horror, since the Spookshow, right? Just the horror elements of what you've done. He's an episode of Tales from the Crypt. He was in that remake of Pet Sematary 3 or 4 years ago. And then most recently, Tiana, I believe you were talking about it. He was in the role of Jenny Penn.
Yes, he is so good in that.
Yeah, I haven't seen, but I've heard good things, and you said it was awesome. So and he was also in that movie Conclave that I believe just won a bunch of Oscars and stuff too, right? Or was nominated for a bunch. So awesome actor, John Lithgow. And that show, what was it? Third Rock from the Sun.
Third Rock from the Sun,
man.
Hilarious.
That's
show,
probably what most people know of him as today. I mean, most of the younger, maybe generation know of him as reruns of that. Millennials,
It's refreshment time, and our refreshment stand is loaded with good things to eat. There's crispy, crunchy popcorn and hot, delicious buttered popcorn, lots of candy, and frosty, refreshing cold drinks. Why not treat yourself at the Refreshment Center now?
It also stars Melinda Dillon as, what was her name? Nancy, right? Nancy Henderson. That's John Lithgow's character's wife in the movie. It's a tie between what you would best know her for. Is it A Christmas Story, the mom from A Christmas Story? Or is it from Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
It's kind of both classics and both. Well, I'm sure I've seen A Christmas Story more times just because of Christmas,
Yeah, and if what is it, TBS or TNT shows it like 24 straight fucking hours. So
people might not know her name as an actress, but they know her from Christmas Story for sure.
Yeah, which has another tie to the Spook Show from the guy that made that was the same guy that made Black Christmas, right? When at the
Bob Clark.
Yeah, Bob Clark. Yeah. What a wild turn from Black Christmas to A Christmas Story.
Yeah, that was. I guess he had experience with Christmas in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. You like that theme.
Unfortunately, she just passed away a couple years ago at the age of 83. Which I saw that, I'm like, 83, what the hell? And then I went back and looked, like that means she was knocking on 50 when she did this movie, and she does not look that old.
No.
Like, I'm thinking like somewhere around like 30. Is what she looked like, but very beautiful woman. It also stars Kevin Peter Hall as Harry. Now,
yes, and you will know him if you don't know him by looks. You'll know him by his other roles, right? At least one role.
he was the Predator. In the first 2 Predator movies, and he was also in Big Top Pee-wee.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. Remember, like the circus sideshow people, the freaks, whatever it was. Like he was. He was the big tall dude. I forget the character's name in that movie. So he was. Unfortunately,
he's 7'2".
Yeah,
and John Lithgow for comparison, I think I saw was 6'4". But whenever he was in the hairy costume, he was 8 feet tall because of the added prosthetics and stuff. Made him 8 feet tall.
Unfortunately, he passed away in 1991 at the age of 35 from AIDS. And apparently he got it from a blood transfusion, literally like a few months before he passed.
Yeah.
So and the only reason I even looked into that was because I was, he's 35. I'm like, what happened? Like he died at such a young age. It's kind of random, but that sucks. Who knows what he would have, what other monsters he would have played. He did a lot of stuff in that brief time period that he had, man, for about 10 years there. He did
I mean, his career was set. If he had lived, he would have been. I mean, he would have still been acting and stuff. They playing like I mean, it's set, but he probably would have been playing, tall creature type. Because you're 7'2". You're either a basketball player or you're going to be,
Yeah. At his size, I mean, you could totally see him being like Chewbacca or Darth Vader or some other character in Star Wars or something one day, right?
Because I think Peter Mayhew was 7 foot something or other.
He was, yeah. He was a huge guy, and I believe David Prowse, right, was the guy. He was a big dude too. So yeah. Either way, that sucks. I just, wanted to point that out since he did die at such a young age. That's what happened. This also spawned not a sequel, but a series. There was a syndicated television series that ran from January of 1991 through June of 1993 for 3 whole seasons and 72 episodes.
Damn, I never seen a single one of those either. And I really didn't even know it.
It was syndicated.
I didn't even look into that.
It was syndicated, so it was it might have been hit or miss whether it aired in your area kind of thing. I do vaguely remember it. And also, the guy we were talking about, I'm blanking on his name. Oh, damn it.
That played the Predator?
Yeah, Kevin Peter Hall. He actually reprised the role as Harry at the very beginning, but then he passed away. And they had to get another guy. So I guess I didn't see how many episodes, but a certain amount of those episodes, it's him as Harry, and then he passed, and then they replaced him. But
so I assume they just had the same family, but of course different actors and actresses.
Yeah, I believe he was I could be wrong, but I believe he was the only one that was in the movie and then was in that series. Because they ain't getting John Lithgow, right? Or for that matter, Melinda Dillon.
No. I mean, of course he would come back for TV for one of the biggest comedy shows ever, like we mentioned already, Third Rock from the Sun. But but Harry and the Hendersons TV series ain't that, not enough to draw them into doing a TV series.
It was apparently it was Bruce Davison that played the dad in the show.
Oh, okay.
And then Molly Cheek, I guess, was the mom, and then so on. But yeah, it doesn't look like anyone else. And then there was a song that was in this, I think, that they made the opening theme of that. It was Your Feet's Too Big. Except that version was performed by Leon Redbone. Because I believe that song was in this in the credits or something like that, right?
Oh, okay.
When I looked at it, yeah. But it was just it was performed by someone else, if I remember correctly.
Speaking of feet, Tiana was reading off some of the actors' names, but near the end of the IMDb, whatever you get to some oddball like roles after you get to the end of the actors list in IMDb or whatever, it's like Joe Bob Briggs was in there as feet. It just said feet. So we figured maybe it was just, is he just like one of the people operating, puppeteering Harry's feet during the TV scenes and the other scenes where I don't know, because there's no character named Feet that we saw, and we couldn't see. I looked for him, and I didn't see him as a extra unless he was really off screen for most of it or whatever. I don't know.
You don't think?
But it's weird.
Remember towards the end of the movie where they're walking around like trying to cover his tracks? Maybe he's one of the dudes.
Oh yeah, I was thinking maybe he would show up as one of the townsfolk. When they were getting guns and ammo from the shop, from John Lithgow's dad's shop or whatever. I figured he'd be showing up in there somewhere, and I looked for him. I didn't see him there either.
If he's there, it's clearly some deep, hidden Easter egg type of thing. Like, to those who know,
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I forgot to dig into it after we're done. Like I said, after we're done, we're ready to go right into the show because the damn thing was 2 hours long. We didn't realize, so we didn't really get to do that deep digging, and I would have, done that. Like,
well, I mean, by and large, we can get to the story. Because it's a pretty simple story, right? Like. Essentially, this family is out camping, and they're coming home, and they accidentally hit a Bigfoot, as we all have at one point or another.
One point in time.
Yeah,
they're like deer. I mean, they're so plentiful.
It's a simple, every family has run into it type of story, and then there's multiple times where they think it's dead and it's not dead, and obviously he's not dead, and they bring him home, and then he just kind of becomes a part of the family, and then it becomes a story of like. They have to kind of save him because there's like, a random Bigfoot hunt all of a sudden. There's like Bigfoot hunting fever going on. And they have to bring him home. And then eventually the point of it all is to bring him home so they can take him to a proper place so he can be safe. Right? That's the simple explanation of this story.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then you got the subtle nuances that we have to discuss. Like about him being mad about the stuffed animals and everything, all the mounted animals and shit like that. I do love
Although he has no compunction, he has no what's the word I'm looking for? No, he doesn't mind eating the goldfish. For that one.
Yeah.
He doesn't want so so he's not a vegan, but he might be a vegetarian, a pescatarian where they eat fish on.
Yeah. He's getting into the subtle nuances of vegetarianism.
That's right.
It is kind of weird if you think about it. Like, I guess it must be that kind of thing, right? Like, because like they also has the fish. He wouldn't eat the cheeseburger, but he would eat the fish sandwich.
Yeah, he threw the burger out of the cheeseburger and ate the bun and the lettuce and tomato, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah. I didn't even dwell on that really, but yeah, you're right. Because I was thinking about it was weird that he just randomly ate the fish, but now it's all making sense. I love when he tells him to sit, and then he just slam sits everywhere. It's not just like sit down hard. It's like jump up in the air and slam down. So he's just breaking everything, and he just busts the shit out of their house. But if you notice, it's only until you get about 45 minutes or so into the movie when they actually call him Harry.
Yeah,
because up to that point he's just Bigfoot or that thing or whatever the hell. They never really name him, and then all of a sudden it's like, by the way, his name's Harry. Oh, okay. So now we're all calling him Harry from here on out. And the main antagonist here is the character. I'm blanking on the actor's name, but the character is Jacques Lafleur. Oh, it was played by David Suchet. I think is how you say his last name.
Suchet.
Yeah. So yeah, he's kind of throughout the thing. He's hunting Harry down. So that's kind of who they're running from, is like to save him from this guy, right? And then there is the character played by Don Amici, Dr. Wrightwood, who you think at first is kind of just like Jacques Lafleur, where he's hunting him down, but really he's more of the scientist, the guy that's really trying to prove the existence of these things in more of a not violent way, right? And that's part of the theme of this too, is that like once that Bigfoot thing gets a hold of you, you want to go grab a gun and hunt him for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It becomes like your Moby Dick, At least it was for Jacques Lafleur, right?
Yep.
The expressiveness. And this is Rick Baker, I assume, like at work here, like just the expressiveness of the face and everything, I think really is what sets this apart from just about any other Sasquatch Bigfoot movie, right? Is it like, of course it's fucking Rick Baker, so it's going to look awesome. But I mean, like, you really learn to like love this character and everything because he can emote. He doesn't deliver anything but one line in this entire movie, right? And I don't forgot what it was. It's toward the end where he says no or whatever that. What does he say? I forget. He says something at the very end, but that's the only thing that he says. So like the entire time he's having to express and everything. And so the makeup job and everything, it does a really good job of conveying everything you need to know from this character, emotions and everything. So I think that really is what makes this as good as it is. Is that makeup job and the fact that he can express like that, right?
Yeah, if they didn't have Rick Baker or at least somebody equally as up to the task with the effects, it wouldn't have been as popular as it was.
What about the random hunting parties that all of a sudden, like, it goes from 0 to 60? Like, a couple people see the Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden everybody's wanting to buy machine guns and form hunting parties through the streets of Seattle.
Yeah, it's like because the Space Needle is obviously visible in one scene. So we're talking about I've lived in Seattle in the past, so it's there is of course the urban, and then you don't have to go that far, and you're in rural, woods and all this stuff. So there is that aspect, but the city itself is not. How are they going to have armed, rural types running through the streets of Seattle with guns?
Yeah,
that part's maybe a bit far-fetched, but it is pretty close to nature. And you don't have to go far.
Oh, they're like they instantly form lynch mobs and shit, and they're just marching through the streets looking for Bigfoot. with the one dude who wants to buy like a fully automatic. Well, first off, fully automatics aren't legal. You can't get a handgun without a waiting period, so all you can buy is right now. Is that a thing? I don't know all the subtle rules of gun purchasing. Like,
you mean it's different for different states, I guess, depending on their laws.
State to state.
Yeah.
And this one is like you can't buy a handgun without a waiting period. You can't buy a fully automatic. That's illegal everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And then but you can buy a rifle right now or shotgun.
Yeah. And I know that's the case in a lot of states where you can buy. You can go into Walmarts in some places and buy rifles and shotguns.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah. I'm not Johnny Gun Nut. I don't know all the subtle rules. of all that. But and the ammo, like I guess that's fairly easy to get. I guess whether you have a gun or not, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. Again, with that too, depends, I guess, on the states. And again, like you can buy it at Walmart, but shotgun shells and certain rifle, bullets for rifles, depending on what it is and where your state and region is and the laws and all that stuff.
And this is 1987, so maybe the laws are a little less restrictive even then, versus what they may or may not be now. I'm not sure, but
yeah. Seattle, I lived there, but it's been a long time, and I definitely don't remember what the gun laws were then, or it's been a number of years since I've been there.
Well, I love that part where they're finally like, all right, they got Harry back and they've got him in the car and they're going to go take him up to the mountains where they're going to let him out. And he's screaming and it sounds like a siren. And he's not like purposefully doing it to sound like a police siren. He's just screaming and it sounds like a police siren. So that kind of like clears the path for them to,
Yeah. I got the impression that he was trying to mimic the siren. Because remember, shortly before that, a police siren went through and made the cars part.
Yeah.
And then I guess he heard and saw that, and then he mimicked what he thought was a police siren, maybe, even though it didn't sound exactly like one. It was for people to hear to get out of the way. Or they're like, look at this fucking Bigfoot hanging out the goddamn thing and yelling, like, get out of his way.
That'd probably be enough to make me move. What's that damn noise? Holy shit, it's a Bigfoot.
He's hanging out the car window. What the hell's going
on? Hanging out like a Doberman out of the door, or the window. When they finally get to the forest and then, Jacques is chasing them this whole way. And Jacques is fighting with him, whatever, and he turns around and kicks Harry in the nuts.
Yeah, there's that moment where it looks like it's not, they do that 80s style effect whenever somebody gets kicked in the nuts, except with him, you don't know what's going to happen. And they give you an impression that maybe it's not going to affect him in any way, but then he just, all of a sudden, like,
yeah, it's like it doesn't hurt him at first, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that hurt, That was probably about the only part in this movie that I actually laughed at. Was that.
Yeah, like out loud laugh.
Like a real laugh, not just like, hey, that's funny, kind of thing. That maybe the screaming, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But they take him eventually they take him to the forest, and then, they overcome Jacques LaFleur by basically there's the big showdown, and then Harry kind of calms the situation down, and then Jacques realizes oh, this isn't just a heartless beast. This thing actually has, some human quality to it. I shouldn't kill it. It's like he comes to the realization like everyone else. And so they let Harry go, and then you get that little bit of a twist at the end where Harry is walking into the woods, and all of a sudden, two or three other Sasquatch, that are just standing there. It's weird. Did you notice how they're just standing there, and then all of a sudden they move? It's like
it was like they were camouflaged perfectly.
Yeah,
I didn't really. I wanted to rewind it and look at that scene to see how they did it, because it's like they weren't there, and then they were there. They turn around, start walking, and then you see them. It was a cool effect.
I went back because I'm like, what the fuck? No, there was no real effect. They're just standing perfectly still, and they blend in with the trees and shit. And then all of a sudden, they just turn around and there's one, there's one, and then there's a little kid one.
Yeah, so that was a very cool effect. I mean, it wasn't really effect, like you said. It's just a very cool camera.
It's just a cool camera shot. But I assume that means that this is his family. Maybe. I mean, they didn't really answer anything there. It's just.
Yeah, they didn't really. I guess you just get the impression that there's more than one.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I had flashbacks to Sasquatch Sunset, and I was like, oh God, let's end this movie now. We don't need to go to the same places they went to.
Oh God,
because there was two, I think at least two others, and then a little kid one. I was like, oh shit, this is that setup all of a sudden. So maybe, just maybe, that's what Sasquatch Sunset is.
It's inspired by that.
Yeah, it's the further adventures of what happened after Harry.
It could be.
When they do go freak out we just saw a road and they start freaking out and shitting, pissing, and lactating all over the road because it's a road. Oh, what a movie! What a time! What a time we have had here.
Definitely, and I did get somewhat to the bottom of the Joe Bob Briggs mystery, although. It's a mystery. Now there's a further mystery, though, because I guess this is where the confusion was. Joe Bob Briggs' real name is John Bloom.
Yeah.
That's his real name. Well, apparently there's another John Bloom. And this John Bloom, when I was looking it up, at first I thought it was Joe Bob Briggs, because it says the guy stands at 7'4" tall. I'm like, Joe Bob Briggs is 7'4"? No way.
No, I don't think so.
I know he's tall, but I don't think he's 7'4". And then I looked into it a little closer. I'm like, it says John Bloom is an actor, but he's not. It says to see John Bloom, Joe Bob Briggs, click here. So it's a different John Bloom. This is the John Bloom, the 7'4" guy, is the one that was in Harry and the Hendersons as Feet, whatever that means. But I can't find anything where it shows who Feet is. Maybe though he was one of those guys, because I wasn't looking. I was looking for Joe Bob Briggs.
Now that you've said all that, you know what it might have been. He might have been one of those other Sasquatch.
Very well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe we don't know the name.
There is a few under there that say Sasquatch number 4.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever.
So there you go. So, maybe for whatever reason they had named that one, and that's just the part that he played.
Yep. But another role he played was as the Frankenstein monster in Al Adamson's Dracula versus Frankenstein. There's another Grindhouse, and we got to get on there at some point.
Well, there you go. That's before we wrap up with our final thoughts and all that, the credits. Did y'all stick around long enough to see what was going on with the credits there? Like they're showing you scenes from the movie.
I forgot.
No, I didn't see it. No, I didn't see the credits.
There's nothing extra there. They're just showing you like random snippets. You know how like the 80s, right? They just show you random snippets from the movie, except like about half, like here's like the scene of Harry messing up the refrigerator or whatever. Then about halfway through it would kind of blink, and then it would go into this drawn animation style. The only thing I can compare it to is like the old Aha music video too. It's like that. It's just like moving weird drawn animation that looks like that. So I'm assuming that's tying in the whole George is an artist storyline thing into this thing, But
he's drawing animations of what happened.
It just added a cool thing to the credits, but it didn't really add anything to the story. It's just replaying the moments and then credits, But yeah. So there you go, Harry and the Hendersons. I think it's a good entry for Cult Corner, but obviously for Sasquatch Summer it fits. So.
Oh yeah.
Nice little family reprieve before we get back to the god-awfulness of some of these movies. The gore-wise and stuff is what I mean. To some of these movies that we watch, right? So we don't do all the usual bits, but we do have our final thoughts and our star rating. So we are pretty much directly comparing this to other Cult Corner movies. So with that in mind, Smoke, we'll let you go first. What are your final thoughts and star rating on Harry and the Hendersons?
For the Cult Corner, we do stars out of 10?
No, it's still 0 to 5. It's just that you're comparing this now to Goodfellas and, and that kind of stuff is what I mean. So yeah, like the Warriors and
the Warriors.
Stuff like that. You're comparing it to a different fare here.
Now that we're doing that though, it's kind of this is one of those movies. It's mainstream.
Yeah,
which is fine, but it's not going to be a comparison for me to. Well, Goodfellas is also mainstream, but this doesn't rank up there with Goodfellas, and for me, it doesn't rank up there with the Warriors because I have a different kind of that's a cult film of a different stripe, in a Grindhouse style movie or whatever, which I'm going to be drawn more towards. So I'll just kind of rate it based on that kind of thing here. Yeah. It is fun and entertaining, and I haven't seen it in a while. The other things I mentioned are minor distractions. They're not like modern movies that might beat you over the head with certain aspects of it, right? It's just that the vegetarianism, anti-hunting, anti-gun kind of thing is just subtext under there. It's in there, but it's not overt and in your face and doesn't distract you too much from it. Unless you're a vegetarian, an anti-hunter, then you'll love it, I guess, the subtext. But whatever.
To me, it's like it's there and it's not subtle, but it's there.
Yeah,
if you want to let it bother you, it might bother you.
Yeah. But I know why it's there now.
Yeah,
more so than just, I'm sure the writers or whoever may have had, be that way or whatever. But as far as in the movie, in the context, it's to show you that, the more, pacifist, be nice to animals and nature, that type of thing,
Yeah.
So, and I could definitely get down with that. The scene that shows of Harry looking across when he leaves the car. The first time he gets out of the car and goes off on his own in the streets of Seattle and then gets to the edge of the woods, basically, and he's got this interstate that he needs to cross, but he can't really cross because it's just endless flow of traffic, and he's looking over into the trees, and it's basically juxtaposing industrial man. Here's
like
here's
that,
man in his industrial
it's that
society.
moment of what have we done to this place?
Yeah.
Like that shit. Yeah.
So I can definitely get down with that aspect of it. Yes. But all the other stuff is just subtext in there. It's not that big a deal. It's the 80s, so it's still not trying to hit you over the head with anything.
Like I said, it's there. It's very there. But like, if you want to let it bother you, you can. If not, just ignore it and move on and just
enjoy it for what it is. And it is fun. So, but yes, rating it up against those other movies, like I mentioned, I don't remember what I gave The Warriors exactly. I might have gave it a 4.
Yeah, you gave that 4 stars. But like, you don't have to directly compare. That's kind of in jest. But like, those are the kind of movies that we're comparing it against, right? Blade Runner. But you can also throw in like, Meatballs and Blackula and stuff like that. I mean, these are the movies we've done here in the Cold Corner, so it's all over the map.
Yeah. But I'll probably go with that. I'm sure. I mean, I like it well enough now. I'm sure I liked it more when I first saw it in 1987, and and the time after that I saw it, there would have been probably still in the 80s or so. But yeah, I still enjoy it. I'll give it a solid 3, anyways.
Tiana, what do you say?
I would have probably gave it 3 or more, when I was younger, but now seeing it, when you're older, you're kind of like, like it, great cast and it's fun or whatever, but yeah, it's definitely meant for a younger crowd.
For sure.
You know what you can kind of liken it to, but this movie is better than that movie, maybe. Well, it depends on who you ask, I guess. But Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Howard the Duck a bit. I mean, this movie's probably written better, I'm sure, than Howard the Duck, but it was one of those to where I saw Howard the Duck in the theater, and it took a while for it to come to video. I loved it in the theater because I was a certain age. For whatever reason, it took a little bit longer, it seemed like, to hit video. And by the time it hit video, the jokes were like, why did I think this was so hilarious at the time in the theater when I saw it? I mean, I still enjoy that movie for what it is, but it's kind of liking it to that for me, too. Although this movie's better, I think, than Howard the Duck.
So I'm just going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I will agree in that, like, I probably would have rated this higher when I was a kid, when I was younger, watching this. For sure. Just like, oh, this is 5 stars. It's awesome. Look, he kicked him in the nuts. And, that being said, I mean, I appreciate it for what it is. And it does hold a little bit of extra, like, sentimental value because it was something I watched so often when I was younger. So, Smoke, I think I'm going to go with you. I'm going to give it 3 stars. I mean, I think it's a solid family flick. If you frame it in that, think E.T. kind of, right?
Yeah.
Sasquatch E.T. is kind of, whatever else you want to compare it to, that kind of stuff. It's a family-friendly, nothing crazy going on here type of movie, but it's in that 80s vein of, like, there is a few cuss words in there, right? So, like, there's moments of a little bit of edginess. Not a lot, but you know what I mean? Like, the 80s thing of, like...
80s.
Yeah, like, they have in a lot of 80s movies, like, the little kid would cuss.
Like, you know what I think of when I think of that is Six Pack. Remember that? The Kenny Rogers movie with the kids? and any number of movies like that. Bad News Bears, I guess.
Yeah, like, the kids, like, say shit or damn or hell or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he cussed, like...
like the kids at the beginning when they hit the Bigfoot and he's laying on the side of the road and they
holy shit.
Like, they call the family, he's like, holy shit, and he's like, thanks, I was looking for the right words.
Yeah. So it's got that 80s vibe to it and everything. Like I said, just for what it was for me watching this so many times growing up and stuff, like, I give it a solid 3 stars. It's not high art or anything like that, but you'll have a good time with it. It's it's funny at moments, lighthearted, family fare. So there you go. That's pretty much all we do for Cult Corner, right? We don't do all the usual stuff, so we'll leave it there. So that gives us a consensus score with Tiana bringing it down a little bit there. 2 points. So yeah, sorry, I hated your movie. I shit on this movie you loved growing up. No, I'm just kidding. That leaves us with a consensus of 2.6 out of 5 stars. So I think that's enough to say we recommend it. If you've never seen it, go check it out. If you're predisposed to like 80s family type E.T., Mac and Me type stuff, right?
Mac and Me.
Well, you know what I mean? Like in that same vibe. I know that's on another planet.
We haven't got that on the show, did we? Ever?
No,
we tried to squeeze it in various places, I think, but
I can think of a place you can squeeze it. It should probably fall somewhere in that category of the apple. Like we should wait, is what I mean. Like, Cannon Fodder, the last thing we should do is the apple. Cult Corner, the last thing we should do is Mac and Me or something. Like make it the period at the end of the sentence before we retire or something. I don't know.
Let it marinate.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, there you go. So next week, this should be interesting because I'm going to go ahead and announce what the next 2 weeks are, because we're going to have a little bit of a Boggy Creek double feature going on here. So next week, we're going to be talking about, now we put this out for a poll and everybody voted for this barely. I can't think of everything that was on the poll, but the two movies that got the most votes were Willow Creek and Boggy Creek. Now, this is the Boggy Creek from 2011, I believe. It won by one vote by our count. One vote over Willow Creek was Boggy Creek. So next week, we're going to be watching Boggy Creek from 2011. Then the following week, it's my choice. And I had already made this choice well before this poll. It's going to be The Legend of Boggy Creek from what year was that? Smoke sometime in the 70s, right? Mid to late 70s, 76.
Yeah, I can't remember exact year right off the top of my head.
Yeah, so the original classic from the 70s, The Legend of Boggy Creek. So 2 straight Boggy Creek. So I guess the experiment will be which one will smoke like the best. That'll be part of the conversation.
I won't say spoiler alert, but
yeah.
No.
Based on track record. Hey, but you never know. Look, I've never seen this new one or new.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Hey, you never know, right? We might watch it and like it.
I haven't seen Boggy Creek, the original one. Well, I'll put it this way: I've only ever seen Boggy Creek, the first one. First of all, of the whole series of franchise, whatever you want to call it, and I haven't seen it since the '80s, at least.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that quote unquote franchise starting next week, I'm sure, since we got a lot to talk about there. So. For Tiana and the Professor Smoke, I am Josh. We are all the All-American Spook Show podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. They're here on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube listening / watching this, go check out everything else we got here and go to aaspookshow.com. And we'll talk to you next week.